Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're delving into the fascinating journey of Nike, from its humble beginnings to becoming a global powerhouse in athletic apparel and footwear. But before we explore the iconic products and athletes, let's start at the beginning. Phil Knight awoke from a dream where his life felt pointless. But it wasn't just a nightmare, it was reality. Unsure of his path, he studied journalism at the University of Oregon and became interested in running. There, he met Bill Bowerman, a famed track coach, forming a bond that would later shape one of the biggest sports companies, but that's for another time. Though Phil graduated with a journalism degree in 1959, he still lacked a clear direction. He had aspired to be an athlete, but at 24, he realized that dream was over. His college training wasn't enough for elite competition. In a search for purpose, he even joined the army for a year, but it left him feeling even more lost and frustrated. After his stint in the army, Phil enrolled at Stanford's Graduate School of Business, where a business assignment became his turning point. The task was to propose a startup, and Phil had a pivotal thought. Could Japanese sports shoes do to German sports shoes what Japanese cameras did to German cameras? Phil noticed how Japanese camera brands like Nikon and Canon had surpassed their German counterparts like Leica and Zeiss. This sparked the idea that Japanese shoe companies could potentially overtake German brands in America, where Adidas and Puma were leading. Phil learned that Japanese manufacturers were creating innovative shoe designs at lower costs, suggesting a real business opportunity in importing them to the US. Phil was excited about his idea and presented it to his business class, but they were skeptical. He even shared his concept with friends, but they didn't see its potential. Despite these hurdles, Phil knew he had to try. The question was, could he overcome the obstacles and turn his idea into a successful business? Phil knew he couldn't wait for opportunity to come to him. He had to make it himself. So, he and a friend planned a world tour, with Phil hoping to explore his idea of bringing Japanese sports shoes to America. Before heading to Japan, he visited Europe, Asia, and Greece, where he saw the Temple of Athena Nike, dedicated to the goddess of victory. He then went to Hawaii, where his plans took an unexpected turn. The beaches in Hawaii captivated Phil and his friend, leading them to stay longer. They took jobs in Honolulu, selling encyclopedias door-to-door to support their stay. Phil, who was naturally shy, struggled with this job, realizing it was time to move on. His friend stayed behind after meeting a girl, but Phil was ready to pursue his dream, so he traveled to Japan alone. In Kobe, he found a running shoe that caught his eye. It was a brand called Tiger, made by Onitsuka. The shoes were well designed and reasonably priced, fitting his criteria. He decided to cold call the company and managed to secure a meeting, despite having no business experience. To prepare, he read about Japanese business customs. Phil introduced himself to Onitsuka as an American shoe distributor interested in marketing their shoes in the US. Surprisingly, Onitsuka was looking to break into the American market and welcomed the meeting. Though Phil was young and inexperienced, he used statistics from his business assignment to sound knowledgeable. But when asked for his company's name, Phil panicked. He didn't have one. Thinking quickly, he remembered the blue ribbons from his childhood that he used to hang on his wall. Without hesitating, he said, "I represent Blue Ribbon Sports of Portland, Oregon." The name was improvised, but it worked. Phil felt his confidence grow as he explained the potential for Tiger shoes in the American market and how they could stand out against established brands like Adidas and Puma. The Onitsuka executives were so impressed that they asked him to be their US distributor. Phil agreed and arranged for some samples to be sent to his home in America. What once seemed like a wild idea was now becoming a reality. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story of inspiration and entrepreneurship, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of our journey through the world of business success. Months went by, but no shoe samples arrived. Phil Knight had returned to America full of excitement and hope. However, as time passed, he began to worry. to find out what had happened to the shoe samples he'd paid $50 for. Phil wrote to the manufacturer asking about the delay. The reply he got was vague. Shoes coming, in just a little more days. Just when he was about to lose hope, 12 pairs of shoe samples finally arrived on his doorstep. They were exactly what he'd hoped for. Phil was thrilled and took the samples to show his former running coach, Bill Bowerman, to get his opinion. Bowerman was a respected track coach, known for his obsession with improving athletes' shoes. Bowerman was impressed with the new Japanese shoes and surprised Phil by offering to be his business partner. Phil and Bowerman became co-founders of Blue Ribbon Sports, each investing $500 into the venture. They ordered 300 pairs of shoes. Phil also asked Onitsuka if Blue Ribbon Sports could be the exclusive distributor of Tiger shoes in the western United States, and they agreed. By April 1964, a shipment of 300 Tiger shoes arrived from Japan. Phil now had a supplier, a business partner, and a stockpile of shoes to sell. But there was a problem. He had no place to sell them. Phil realized he'd have to sell these shoes himself. Phil started visiting track meets and running clubs, selling the shoes directly from the trunk of his car. His enthusiasm, along with Bowerman's connections, helped them sell all 300 pairs in just 3 months. By the end of their first year, Blue Ribbon Sports had sold $8,000 worth of shoes, allowing Phil to order 900 more pairs from Japan. With sales rising quickly, they opened their first retail store in 1966. Designed as a runner's sanctuary where people could hang out, talk, and browse running-related books, Bowerman's influence extended beyond shoe design. He coached well-known runners and future Olympians, which helped promote the brand and sell more shoes. One of Bowerman's shoe designs, the Cortez, became the top-selling shoe in 1969, leading to Blue Ribbon Sports generating about $300,000 in revenue. Business was booming, and everything seemed to be going well between Blue Ribbon Sports and Onitsuka in Japan. But unbeknownst to Phil, Onitsuka had plans that would soon turn the partnership upside down. Phil asked Onitsuka if Blue Ribbon Sports could be the exclusive distributor for Tiger shoes across all of America, not just the western part, as previously agreed. But Onitsuka initially said no, doubting that Blue Ribbon was big enough to handle the whole country and preferring a partner with an East Coast presence. Phil, however, lied and said they did have offices on the East Coast, even though they didn't. Onitsuka believed him. They made a deal for Blue Ribbon to be the exclusive U.S. distributor for Tiger shoes, and Phil ordered 20,000 pairs. Despite these challenges, Phil and Bowerman were impressed with Onitsuka's high-quality shoes, believing they had a win-win partnership. Thanks to Blue Ribbon Sports, Onitsuka had established a strong presence in the United States market, and Phil thought their future was secure with Onitsuka. To improve the relationship and discuss renewing their contract, Phil scheduled a meeting with an Onitsuka representative, Kitami. The meeting was disappointing. Kitami criticized Blue Ribbon sales and showed little interest in extending the partnership. Phil's suspicions grew, and when Kitami left the room, he pulled out a folder from his briefcase containing a list of 18 athletic shoe distributors in the U.S. and a schedule of appointments. It was clear that Onitsuka was plotting to replace Blue Ribbon with other distributors, despite the existing contract. It took Phil some time to process the shock of the meeting with Onitsuka, but once he did, he resolved to fight back. Phil and Bowerman realized that losing the Onitsuka Tiger brand didn't have to be the end of Blue Ribbon Sports. It might even be a chance for them to pivot to something bigger. The best-selling Cortez shoe was Bowerman's design, so why not create and sell their own line of shoes? Phil called a meeting to rally the team and brainstorm ideas for their new shoe line, which meant they needed a new brand name. It was their first employee, Jeff Johnson, who proposed Nike, the Greek goddess of victory, inspired by a dream he'd had. Next, they needed a logo. They hired a graphic design student who created the now famous Swoosh for just $35. With the name and logo in place, They needed a new manufacturer who could deliver high-quality shoes at a reasonable price. Phil also made sure not to repeat the mistake of relying on a single manufacturer. Instead, he set up a network of manufacturers to give him flexibility and control over production. By 1971, Blue Ribbon Sports officially became Nike. The company's annual sales had surpassed $1 million, and Nike's growth took off, quickly becoming a global name. Phil expanded production to new factories worldwide, reinvesting profits into further growth. Nike wasn't just gaining market share, it was also becoming a fashion icon. But as Nike rose, other American brands started to watch closely, waiting for a chance to bring the company down. Nike was on a roll. Sales were booming, word of mouth was glowing, and legal battles were behind them. To fuel this rapid growth, Phil considered taking Nike public. But then, he received a letter that upended everything. It was from the U.S. Customs Service, stating that Nike owed them $25 million. Phil thought it was a mistake or a joke if they had to pay that much. Nike would be finished, but it wasn't a joke. The bill was real, and the reason behind it was malicious. Nike's American competitors, including Keds and Converse, were threatened by Nike's rapid rise. They conspired with government officials to resurrect an old rule called the American Selling Price, ASP. This archaic regulation, designed to protect American manufacturers, mandated that if an American company made a product domestically, any similar imported product would face a 20% import duty based on the domestic company's selling price. Because Nike imported their shoes from Japan, this ASP rule applied, leading to exorbitant import fees, $6 extra for every pair they imported. Worse yet, the duties were backdated 3 years, resulting in the massive $25 million bill. Phil knew Nike couldn't afford this. The only option was to fight. He hired a top-notch lawyer, and for 3 grueling years, Nike battled against the customs office and its competitors in court. Eventually, they settled for $9 million instead of the original $25 million, which was still a lot, but more manageable. During those 3 years, Nike had grown substantially, with annual sales reaching $440 million, allowing them to pay the settlement and move forward. It was a close call, but Nike emerged from this challenge stronger than ever, ready for the next chapter. From then on, Nike continued to grow. Phil signed deals with 2 Chinese factories, making Nike the first American shoemaker to conduct business in China. Nike also expanded into clothing, which not only increased revenue, but also strengthened their bargaining power for athlete endorsements. By 1986, Nike had surpassed Converse to become the top sports brand in America. But beneath this success lay a dark secret involving exploitation, child labor, harassment, violence, an ugly truth that was about to come to light. In 1991, Nike faced a crisis when American labor activist Jeffrey Ballinger released a report that accused the company of using child labor and exploiting workers in underdeveloped countries. His film, Behind the Swoosh, highlighted deplorable working conditions in factories, claiming that workers lived in slums with poor sanitation and shared toilets with hundreds of families. These laborers worked in unsafe buildings, often without access to drinking water or proper restrooms, and were paid as little as $125 for a full day of work. The controversy grew in 2001 when a BBC documentary exposed child labor and harsh working conditions in a Cambodian factory linked to Nike. It showed 6 young girls working 7 days a week, sometimes for 16 hours a day. These revelations sparked protests worldwide, with students and activists calling for boycotts and several universities severing ties with Nike. The company's stock fell by 15%, and its sales suffered. Phil Knight, Nike's founder, found himself in a new role, not as the good guy, but as the villain. He responded by promising to improve conditions in Nike's global factories. Phil Knight and Nike argued that they were not directly controlling these factories, but merely renting space like other companies. However, the broader issue remains. Many multinational corporations rely on overseas labor with questionable conditions. Yet Nike's ability to transform controversy into profit has been a testament to their resilience in the face of such scandals. After 40 years, Phil Knight stepped down as CEO, leaving behind a remarkable story of a young man with no experience who built the largest sports brand in the world. The message for everyone is clear. Timing may never be perfect, but sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith. Or, in Nike's famous words, just do it. Did you know that as a token of appreciation for her work, Phil Knight later gifted the designer of Nike's logo, Carolyn, with more than $640,000 worth of Nike products, showcasing the brand's gratitude for her contribution to its success. No discussion of Nike would be complete without delving into the origins of its iconic slogan, "Just do it." This powerful mantra, synonymous with Nike, was inspired by the last words of convicted murderer Gary Gilmore in 1977. Gary Gilmore was executed by firing squad in Utah. His final words before execution were, "Let's do it." Advertising executive Dan Whedon, inspired by Gilmore's words, suggested the now famous slogan, "Just do it," during a brainstorming session for a Nike ad campaign in 1988. Did you know that the first sportsperson to sign a contract to promote Nike shoes was tennis player Ilie Nastase in 1971? This groundbreaking endorsement deal marked the beginning of Nike's partnership with elite athletes, paving the way for future collaborations with some of the biggest names in sports. But probably the most important partnership in the industry is that with Michael Jordan, the basketball legend. That partnership with Nike revolutionized the sneaker industry. In 1984, Nike signed Jordan to a deal that resulted in the creation of the iconic Air Jordan line. This partnership transformed sneakers from athletic gear into cultural symbols, paving the way for the entire sneaker culture that thrives today. Then there's LeBron James, often called King James. Nike signed him straight out of high school in 2003, and the collaboration has since produced multiple signature shoe lines and a variety of other merchandise. Nike's partnerships extend beyond basketball. The brand has worked with legendary tennis player Serena Williams, whose powerful performances and unique style have made her a household name. Her signature apparel and footwear collections reflect her boldness and commitment to breaking barriers in sports. Other notable partnerships include Tiger Woods in golf, Cristiano Ronaldo in European football, and Rafael Nadal in tennis, each contributing to Nike's reputation for excellence and innovation. These athletes represent the pinnacle of their respective sports, and their collaborations with Nike have not only driven the brand's success, but also inspired countless aspiring athletes around the world. The relationships between Nike and these athletes are more than just business deals. They're stories of dedication, ambition, and triumph. Each partnership tells a unique story that continues to inspire people to push their boundaries and strive for greatness. As we reflect on the remarkable journey of Nike and its founder, Phil Knight, we're reminded that greatness often begins with a dream. Phil's childhood passion for sports and his relentless pursuit of excellence laid the foundation for a global empire that continues to inspire and uplift millions of people around the world. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the story of Nike. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on business, success, and inspiration. Until next time, remember to just do it.